Hello. My name is Megan Langford, Miss Langford. I'm a freshman studying social studies education with a minor in education policy. Um, I want to teach U.S. history at the high school level. In terms of technology, I believe that if used appropriately and responsibly, technology can and should be integrated into classrooms. There are so many wonderful and educational technological programs and resources that I plan to take advantage of in my future classroom. Being in social studies, it may be a little harder for me to fully integrate technology into my curriculum, but it's still a wonderful resource that I can utilize for my future students. So now on to professional development page. This has my badges, of course. They're all linked with the four E vowels next to them. Um, so I, of course, did 10. These are all of my badges, but to focus on a little more in depth, I'm going to go to my gallery and talk about my best work throughout the semester. So, my favorite and probably my best artifact from the semester is definitely when we micro taught. There are a couple pictures and also the links and my evaluation. We started with a digital citizenship PowerPoint, as you can see, and then we played the board game, which I'll talk about in a second. So, here's my instructional video for my board game that we played during my micro teaching. It revolved around internet safety, as you can see here, and the cards, as you can see, have QR codes on them. Some have scenarios or questions that the students could apply their knowledge about internet safety that they had learned previously from the PowerPoint presentation and compete to win the game. Very simple, making your way around the board. Another major artifact from the semester was my PBL lesson plan, my problem-based learning lesson plan. It revolved around a U.S. history standard about the Great Depression and kind of how would allow students to discover for themselves the causes and the impacts that it had in American society. Our final culminating activity was for my students to script and record a quote-unquote live radio podcast kind of describing what's happening and how they would see it happening in the future. I think this turned out really well, and I hope to implement this when I teach the Great Depression in my own class. And finally, in my gallery, there's a computational thinking artifact. There's my instructional video, where students would be able to integrate technological programs such as Excel into solving a problem related to social studies, more specifically geography. So these artifacts are important to me because they not only taught me how to use them, of course, but it gave me another resource that I can impart on my future students. Being able to master the skills from these given programs will really only benefit my future classroom and my future students. I could see myself integrating these artifacts and badges into my future classroom. The ones that come to mind first are the computational thinking artifact, as it lets students use technology to solve social studies problems. Again, the PBL, as it allows students to come up with their own ideas and solutions. And of course, kind of going back to the professional development, I would of course use Nearpod, Jeopardy, Kahoot, the kind of the classics that I always liked or would see myself using in my future classroom. All of these artifacts and badges could easily be incorporated into my future classroom. So in all, how could I see myself using technology in my future room? As I said before, my first priority would be that the technology is always being used appropriately and responsibly. I want the technology to add to my students' learning experience and not take away from it. I really do plan on using Nearpod, as I said. I know when I was in school, I would have loved Nearpod, so I definitely will use that. I also plan on integrating some of technology, some sort of technology, into all of my projects and my assignments. That's definitely a vast goal, but it's one that I have. I think that will serve as very beneficial to my students to be able to incorporate technology into their assessment of my social studies material. Overall, my W200 experience was pretty great. I learned a lot of various facts about technology and strategies to integrate those into my future classroom. As I said, because I want to teach US history, it may be a little more difficult to fully integrate and incorporate those programs. However, they are still very, very useful tools that I hope I can use in my future classroom. But I'm sure by the time I'm actually teaching, there will be new and improved technology that I will learn to use and learn to integrate. So that's it. I've kind of scrolled through all of my pages. Yeah, that's it.